I noticed you're wearing a flag. Is this a trans flag?
It is a trans flag, yes.
Amazing.
There's nothing in fear. This is not a far-right rally.
So if anything, there was more like harassment from the counter-protesters.
Oh, absolutely.
I am here with
Ari
and
Jason.
Is it your first day at the protest, or how long you been here?
I live in the area, so I just been coming and going every so often.
Yeah, myself as well. I come down just to make sure everything's cool. You know, folks are being respectful and stuff to each other, and it's been overwhelming just the amount of support folks have shown each other.
What does this protest mean to you? What do you think it's about?
About this, I think it's standing up against government overreach for the most part. We've been complying for so much for such a long time that this is no longer sustainable.
I see a lot of folks hurting, right? I've seen a lot of folks get into, you know, kind of mental depression issues over the last 2 years and whatnot. It's been tough on all of us, you know, myself included. And I don't like to see the division. What I'm feeling here is a sense of community and folks coming together to say, hey, there's some things that are wrong. We need to have some discussions. And let's do that in a respectful manner. I'm not saying, hey, let's walk into every establishment and tear off our masks. You know, that doesn't respect the people working there. But I am saying it's very, I don't know if you'll be able to hear me, but
The sound of freedom.
it's very important that we respect each other and we come together and have those discussions.
You guys are from Ottawa. I've been talking to people from Alberta, BC, Quebec, and some of them are saying they're feeling this Canadian pride for the first time they haven't felt in a long time. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely. For the longest time, what it meant to be Canadian always felt like to be just a slightly, like a less free American. That was kind of what it almost felt like. It was not something to be explicitly proud of. But now seeing this overwhelming show of support for Canadian freedoms, Canadian liberty, yeah, this is a Canada I'm proud to be a part of.
I went to school out in Nova Scotia, and it was that East Coast kind of flavor that really got to me.
East Coast as in like super nice, friendly Canadians?
Super
or
awesome, yeah. Just saying hi to you on the street and seeing how you're doing. And that's the kind of vibe I've kind of gotten coming downtown and just seeing what's going on. It's just impressive. It does feel very Canadian, and that's something that we haven't started to come together on in a long time.
We are a young country compared to the States. And in many ways, I feel like this has been a very formative event for our Canadian identity. Kind of like you were saying, it's almost like we're stepping out of the shadow of the States, and it's like we're our own independent, self-respecting nation. And we are nice, and we have protests where we hand out free food, and we're freezing our asses off, and that's just what it means to be Canadian.
Totally. I think, you know, the fact that it's been so cold and so many people have been coming down here to show support to each other, that is truly Canadian. And I think there's a lot that we can kind of share with each other and support those of us that still have a lot of questions around this. And the more that we can show that, the more it shows how we're Canadian, the more it shows how we're peaceful. And truly, it's very different from the U.S. in that respect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see it around. Everyone's just kind of eating, acting happy with each other and having a really good time. And that's how I met Ari over here. So it's been awesome.
Cool. Oh, so you guys just met at the protest?
Yeah, actually. So we were here on Wednesday. Incidentally, I was just interviewed by another streamer who then we happened to run into each other. He recognized me, and we just kind of hung out for the rest of the day. We just kind of ran to each other today. So,
do you guys watch the news in this country?
Very cynically. I work night shift, so there's usually not very much to listen to. So sometimes I'll turn on the CBC just to see what they're saying these days. Not that it's factual at all, but just okay. Well, what are they spewing tonight?
Aren't you afraid at all to come out to the protest and associate with what they're saying on the news? Do you have any fear about that?
Personally, I'm not particularly worried. I think there's more people who are in support of this than people will let on. I know a lot of people who I work with. They're quite happy with what's going on here. But it's just with a very chilled atmosphere politically that a lot of people don't want to speak out or attend this.
Right, they don't want to speak out. How about you? Do you watch the news, and are you afraid to come out here?
I'm not afraid to come out. In terms of the news, it's challenging because I don't see them presenting the story, right?
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. But I will say, like, I do feel bad for some of my friends and colleagues who are closed to work right now, and I know that that's frustrating for them, and they don't really understand from the way the media is presenting it that they can come outside if they leave downtown, that it is quite friendly around. But you know, I feel bad for folks that feel, you know, that have kind of been hurt a bit by this. But the problem is that, you know, when we're not allowed to have a voice, we're not allowed to have that conversation with our government, that's where people, and Canadians especially, are going to start speaking out and saying, hey, like, I want to talk about this. Why can't you come down and have that conversation with us? And that's important.
Yeah, and it's really been the truckers that started that. I mean, when the truckers are complaining and coming together, like, you know, it's time.
It's time.
Well, I hear the fishermen are coming now too, so I don't know.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I noticed you're wearing a flag. Is this a trans flag?
It is a trans flag, yes.
Amazing. So a lot of people, again, might say, oh, well, how dare you, or something. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, actually, I have had those words directed against me because I walked through the counter protest on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And initially they were very happy that I was, you know, in attendance until they realized that I was crossing the line. And they were very unhappy with what they saw was, you know, an identity that they're supposed to have ownership of.
Yeah.
And you know, someone who was, you know, speaking out against that, they were not happy whatsoever. I was told this is supposed to be a far right rally. I'd like to know why I haven't been attacked or accosted by anyone at the convoy. I had the counter protesters when I came back. They were confrontational with me, but for the convoy itself, no, it's just been outpouring love and support. There's nothing in fear. This is not a far right rally.
So if anything, there was more like harassment from the counter protesters.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you think people watching can, you know, better participate or maybe open their minds to what's going on here?
I think it's probably likely channels like this. There's a lot of folks on YouTube, Viva Frey, Ottawa, Machines Everywhere, yourself. And, you know, I think the more we kind of tune into some of those channels, even for a little bit, you're going to see a lot of folks celebrating, being friendly, being Canadian, and really trying to encourage dialogue. And that's really what it's about, right?
I think the best way that people can become informed is just tune in to actual on-the-ground reporting instead of what the mainstream media has been reporting, which is not representative of what's happening here at all. So if they want to become informed about what a wonderful time this has been, what a nice protest this has been, I think
it's a moment of national unity, you know, like it feels big.
Absolutely. And it's a real shame that you said this, a national unity, that, you know, our media organizations will not be joining us.
Yeah, they will not be joining us. That's such a polite way to put it, actually. Well done. Let's say the mandates have ended, okay, and Justin Trudeau's out of the picture. This is a hypothetical. And yourself, you are Prime Minister. What would be your number one priority to change in this country?
Aside from ending the mandates, my gosh, probably giving more support to our blue collar workers, the people that have been the backbone of this country. Just give them the support they need. Give them, you know, get more trucks on the road. Help end this you know, these shortages that we've been having. Get the help where it's needed.
Help the economy, right?
Absolutely.
Get it going again. What are your thoughts? One thing you'd change, Mr. Prime Minister?
I think one of the things I'd focus on the most is mental health. You know, and what our investment is into mental health right now, especially after the pandemic. Number one priority right there. Enough said.
The CBC, they do this thing where, you know, it's Trudeau is all about diversity is our strength, and the CBC wants to have like their quotas for inclusion and equity. And, you know, meanwhile, there's a lot of that naturally happening here, right? And I guess I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this version of almost like they try to commodify the diversity or something. Does this make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what are they failing at, or is it good? Is it bad? Or
I think the ultimate, you know, the intention is noble, but again, like you said, like it's something that happens naturally. And if you were to, you know, just let people work as they were, I think your quote unquote your diverse staff or people who are working or attending protests and stuff, you're going to see that they're not going to be, tokenized. They're instead of just, this is a woman, this is a black person.
Another quota or whatever.
Exactly. So it makes it so much more organic if it's not something that is forced. If someone is here because they're black, you have to wonder, it's like, okay, well, are they here because they're black and not they were here on the merits? And honestly, it fuels far more division than people will admit.
And probably like insecurity too for everyone. Am I here because of this, or am I here because I'm good? And
absolutely, it can almost create a sense of imposter syndrome among minority groups. When I think really what we should be focusing on is instead of diversity as a trait, it should be inclusion. That everyone who is in attendance, who is in group, should feel welcome to participate, as opposed to working just straight numbers games, because that's not how people work.
And as it turns out, we're finding at this protest over the course of 10 days now, that Canadians kind of naturally have that, or the ones standing up for freedom. There is a natural sort of respect. There is a natural sort of like respecting whoever you are, don't really care, right?
Yeah. It's felt very inclusive. I've met a lot of different folks. Again, just coming down to see what's going on, see how folks are being. But yeah, very, very overwhelming sense of inclusion, I find.
Anything else to say for the people watching that you want to help them encourage, support the truckers or this movement, or just anything to say?
Just if anyone's in the area, please feel free to come down. This has been a wonderful time. Seeing videos and seeing documentation, it's definitely helps, but it's nothing like actually just being down and seeing it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. How about yourself?
Well, I think I already said it best, but just to add on to that, maybe you come down here and you don't agree, and that's fine. Just being open to having conversation with folks, that's really what got my perspective going and why I came down. So be open to it, check it out. If you don't agree, have that conversation, and that's fair, but don't disrespect just because folks think differently.
Group hug?
Yeah.
Group.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say I like your stuff, man.
Thanks, man. I'm going to keep doing these interviews. If you want to support that, like, share, subscribe, send it to GregTheCanadian at hotmail.com. Send an e-transfer there, really helping me out. We're going to keep telling you the story of what's happening on the ground here in Ottawa. We will talk to you soon. The peaceful tower, the Peace Tower. It is the peaceful Peace Tower, just like the protesters here.